Americans have lost their lives.
Can you guys even picture what it'd look like if a nuke hit us? Like, would the sky even stay blue after that? Funny thing, Michael, America didn't have to imagine that. We built our own nightmare and stood close enough to feel it.
Between 1945 and 1992, the United States performed over 1,000 nuclear tests. Out of those, 216 were space, underwater, or atmospheric tests.
Space, underwater, in the sky? America tested nukes just to see how far they could push the world before it pushed back. It wasn't defense anymore. It was a contest to scar the planet and still call it progress.
While most of the testing took place at a test site in Nevada, the United States military tested the capabilities of these new weapons in other places as well, particularly within the Pacific Ocean. With such immense power in their hands, you would assume the scientists would take extra precautions to ensure innocent bystanders were not negatively impacted from the nuclear warheads detonating nearby. However, mistakes happen in every line of work.
I mean, how bad could it really get? Dropping it in the middle of the ocean. It's all water. Shouldn't that cool the fire down or something? Maybe just a big splash and done. Nah, that blast don't care about water, bro. The heat's so wild, it turns the ocean into steam. Straight vaporizing anything near it. You could be miles out and still feel your skin cooking.
And there have been several cases where nuclear testing went horribly off the rails. While there have only been a few tests gone awry, one error is one too many when you're dealing with nuclear weapons. It is estimated that because of nuclear weapons testing in the United States, over 300,000 Americans have lost their lives.
300,000 Americans gone instantly, and not from war, but from testing alone. People who never held a weapon ended up paying the price for the ones who did.
On March 1st, 1954, a group of military officers, scientists, Marshall Island natives, and fishermen gathered on a small island to witness the testing of a new nuclear weapon. The testing was codenamed Castle Bravo, and its impact almost led to the deaths of them all.
Bro, I still can't wrap my head around it. Like, you're standing there watching the bomb go off? That's not bravery, that's straight up insanity. Yeah, but back then, people thought they were watching history, not their own funeral. Most of them didn't even know radiation can travel that far. They thought distance made them safe, when the wind was already carrying death their way.
The experiment was designed to test the first thermonuclear explosion that was based on feasible technology. The goal was that this research would result in a deliverable H-bomb. The team designed a prototype wet fuel bomb that was based on the Ivy Mike weapon designed just a couple of years earlier. The bomb in question weighed 30 tons, despite only measuring 5 feet wide and 24 feet long.
30 tons? Fam, that ain't a bomb. That's a whole goddamn apartment complex. They built it just to flex. A weapon so massive, it never even left the lab. Like power for the sake of ego, not defense.
However, this bomb simply wasn't practical, which is why, for Castle Bravo, they used dry fuel consisting of lithium deuteride, which is solid and more lightweight. Scientists estimated that Castle Bravo would yield an explosion of roughly 5 megatons. With this in mind, they based where the safety zone would be, where people could watch the explosion and remain a safe distance away.
I've always wondered, how do you even know if a bomb's a megaton? What, somebody just guesses it when it goes off? That sounds impossible to measure. They figured out from what the blast actually does, how far the shockwaves travel, how bright the flash gets, even the ground vibrations it leaves behind. Every one of those clues tells them how much energy went off. And that's how they nailed the megaton count.
Castle Bravo was set to go off at 6:45 local time, and from the second it detonated, onlookers knew something had gone terribly wrong. The nuclear explosion produced an overwhelming flash, even brighter than what scientists expected from nuclear blasts. The blast was so bright that men were able to see their bones appear as shadows through their own flesh.
Man, I don't even want to imagine that kind of pain. If that flash was bright enough to show your bones through your skin, that he had to feel like your whole body was being cooked alive. Skin melting before you even had time to scream. That ain't light. That's death disguised as daylight.
Blinding light made its way through every crack and pinhole within the secured facilities. The thermal radiation from the blast was far more intense than they were anticipating. Sailors on Navy ships over 30 miles away were reported as saying that it felt like a blowtorch was being directed right at their bodies.
I really wonder, if you're 30 miles out, how long before that heat hits you? Not long at all, maybe 2-3 seconds. At that range, the heat will hit you before the sound ever could.
The subsequent shockwave destroyed buildings far outside the calculated damage zone. The fireball forming from the explosion measured at roughly 4 miles in diameter and rose over 130,000 feet above sea level. Oh, and did I mention that it was hotter than the surface of the sun?
130,000 feet? That's like stacking 40 Mount Everest on top of each other. And it was hotter than the surface of the sun? Ain't no way, dog. That's not heat. That's straight erasure. Like the air itself decided nothing gets to exist anymore.
Men who fought valiantly in World War II fell to their knees and began to pray. Remember when we said that scientists expected the blast to only be 5 megatons? Well, when all was said and done, that blast was closer to 15 megatons.
15 megatons when they aimed for 5? That's not a small error. That's the kind that rewrites what safe distance even means. Yeah, like the math didn't just break, it turned around and bit them. One wrong number, and you accidentally build the biggest bomb on Earth.
The reason for the miscalculation was due to a tritium bonus that happened in the middle of the thermonuclear reaction. Cascading neutrons in the bomb turned the lithium-7 isotope into a mix of tritium and helium. And if you know nothing of thermonuclear dynamics, then you should know that tritium creates extreme energetic fusion. This blast was 1,000 times greater than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima.
It's simple chemistry gone rogue. The lithium reacted in ways they didn't predict, creating extra fuel mid-blast and turning 5 megatons into 15.
And just when everyone in the vicinity thought they were safe, there was the matter of the nuclear fallout. Meteorologists expected the fallout to blow away from all inhabited areas. Instead, the opposite occurred, with a radioactive cloud blowing the fallout toward the population. It rained down on nearby ships as well as United States service members stationed on Rongerik Island.
Bro, imagine standing there thinking the danger's over, and the sky starts sprinkling white dust. Looks harmless, but you're breathing in poison you can't even see. That's absurd. Yeah, I bet half of them didn't even think twice about it either. Probably thought it was just ash or rain. They didn't even know the snow was killing them while it fell.
The fallout also made its way to a Japanese fishing vessel where one man died from radiation exposure, resulting in an international disaster between the US and Japan. More so, Marshall Island natives had to leave the only home they had ever known because the radiation was leading to increased cases of thyroid cancer as well as birth defects.
Leaving your home is one thing, but leaving it because the air itself gave you cancer? That kind of radiation has to at least cause stage 2 or stage 3 cancer. You don't recover from that. You just wait to find out which part of your body quits first.
They returned briefly, but had to evacuate again due to fears of lingering radiation, and they never went back. Fallout continued in the form of extensive legislation to limit further testing of nuclear weapons. In 1963, the US passed the Limited Test Ban Treaty that outlawed any further atmospheric testing of nuclear weapons.
I wouldn't be surprised if taking it underground didn't change much. You can bury the bomb, but that radiation is still gonna crawl its way out somehow. You're absolutely right, Delonte. The stuff doesn't stay buried. It seeps into the soil, the water, everything. You'd think it's contained, but give it time and it creeps back up through the food, the rain, and even the air people breathe.
In 1990, Congress passed the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, which stated that the Justice Department would offer a one-time payment of $75,000 to any and all atomic veterans for nuclear testing-related illnesses. Surprisingly, records show that only about 3% of such atomic veterans have ever filed for a claim.
No amount of money can fix damage like that. You can't put a price on lives that never got the chance to heal. Maybe the reason only 3% claimed it is because the rest didn't live long enough to.
It seems as though the United States killed more of its own people to develop these weapons. The government has taken steps to reduce the number of people exposed to radioactive materials. Additionally, there was some blind luck associated with reducing the number of poisoned individuals. A great deal of nuclear testing occurred in Nevada, which had a low atmospheric dispersal rate, meaning the fallout was less likely to make its way to nearby communities.
Nevada might have looked perfect on paper. Dry air, open land, and no cities for miles? But radiation doesn't need a crowd to find victims. One shift in wind, and the test site turns into a delivery system. And the frightening part? Most of the time, they didn't even know the wind changed. You could be hanging laundry 50 miles out and never realize you were breathing in the test.
The government was actually looking at other testing facilities before it decided on Nevada, and it turns out that decision could have saved hundreds upon thousands of lives. Unfortunately, the impact of these tests lingers in American society. It's entirely plausible that millions of Americans were exposed to fallout and suffer from illnesses related to that exposure.
Preparation's not supposed to look like the thing you're scared of. If testing alone left this much death behind, imagine what the real thing would have done. Makes you realize the line between practice and destruction was already gone.
Those people now rely on the government to fund healthcare. Nuclear testing has fallen to the wayside, with the last test occurring in 1992. This was due to the adoption of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty that was created by the United Nations General Assembly. This treaty bans all nuclear explosions for both military and civilian purposes.
Kinda wild. The same minds that had to build the bomb also had to build the hospitals to treat its aftermath. Progress and pain came from the same blueprint. Dog, it took a whole treaty just to stop blowing up the planet. Like we really needed paperwork to prove we finally learned what enough feels like? Shaking my head.
The treaty has not entered into force, with 8 nations not yet ratifying. Nuclear weapons have a complicated spot in history.